Hello everyone, and welcome to another video on the CodeIgniter series. The last video we took a look at what we're going to be creating and what you should know. This video we're going to go over what exactly MVC is. MVC stands for Model View Controller, and this is just a design pattern on how you want to lay out your code. You want to make sure that you understand this because this is what CodeIgniter uses. So instead of one PHP file that has all the HTML and the programming in it, with a model view and controller in it, you actually separate all of it. Let's break this down. M stands for model, and the model holds all the functions on all the database queries. So this holds all the CRUD, which is create, read, update, and delete. All of these queries go inside the model. The view is going to hold all of the HTML as well as output any of the variables that got pushed from the controller. It's not going to have any database syntax at all. The last thing is the controller, and the controller is a middleman between the model and the view, and it also directs where everything goes. The controller determines if it needs to communicate with the model, and then it grabs any of the results from the database and it sends that information to the view. The view then takes any of those variables from the controller and uses HTML to display that information. If you notice with this layout of MVC, the view and the model don't communicate with each other. That's the job of the controller. While this may seem like a lot of extra work at first, you're going to find that it's a lot cleaner and you're really going to enjoy using it. Let's look at what CodeIgniter says about MVC. To do this, go to CodeIgniter.com, then go to Read the User Guide. When you get there at the top, you can see Table of Contents. Go ahead and click on that, and on the left-hand side, under Introduction, there's Model View Controller. You can see that they have the same basic information. The model represents the data, the view is the information presented to the user, and the controller is the middleman. You can also see that CodeIgniter has a fairly loose approach to MVC because models aren't required. So if you don't want the added separation or you find it too complex than you want, then you don't actually have to use a model. However, you're going to want to make sure that you use the models because a lot of different frameworks use the MVC design pattern, and so it's better to do things the way that you should to begin with, so that when you work on other frameworks in the future, you're already off to a good start. Let's go ahead and look at a simple example on a single PHP page, and then let's actually look at that being a model view and controller. Here's our simple PHP page. If you don't understand this, you're going to want to learn a little more PHP before you jump into this CodeIgniter series. As you can see, we're just grabbing some results from the database on all of the different posts. If there are no posts, we're going to have a message, and if there are, then we're just going to print each row individually. Let's go ahead and take a look at how this would look being a model view and controller. We're going to look at the controller first because that's what's accessed first. This controller is very simple. We're just including a model which is called post, and we're going to use one of the functions inside of that model which grabs all of the different posts, and then we're going to put that variable into a view and load the home view. Next we have the model, and as you can see in the model and controller, they're both inside of a class. Then we just have a simple function and a very clean layout. CodeIgniter just has a very simple way. Just select everything from the post and order that. Then we're going to grab the results and put it inside of an array and return it. Now our view is using any of the variables that we got sent over to us, and we're going to use that to output all of the results. This is great because, as you can see, there's nothing complicated with a view. It's just basically HTML with a few variables in it. This is a great way to do things, and you're really going to love it. We've now learned what MVC is, and we've also learned that CodeIgniter uses this design pattern. If you're a little confused on it, or you might not think it's an efficient way to go, don't worry. As we go through these videos, you're going to learn it more, and you're going to become very comfortable with it, and I think you're going to love it. The next video that we're going to do, we're actually going to install CodeIgniter and jump into creating our very first site.